Right now, you probably think boredom is something to avoid. You reach for your phone the second you feel it coming. But for 300,000 years, boredom wasn't a problem to solve. It was a normal part of being human. And the strange truth is that getting rid of it may have cost us more than we realize. For most of human history, long stretches of mental quiet were simply part of life. Your ancestors didn't have infinite entertainment waiting in their pockets. When the work was done, or when they were waiting for something, or when night fell and the fire burned low, there was often nothing left to do but sit with their own minds. They walked. They stared at the sky. They let their thoughts wander without direction. And this wasn't laziness. It was something their brains had evolved to expect. Modern humans treat boredom like a bug in the system. We've built an entire economy around making sure you never have to feel it. Notifications, infinite scroll, autoplay, podcasts while you walk, music while you shower. We've turned every possible gap in attention into something that can be filled. But your brain wasn't designed for constant input. It was designed with long periods of low stimulation built into the day. And when those periods disappeared, something important started to break. Scientists have a name for what happens when your mind is left alone with itself. They call it the default mode network. It's the system in your brain that becomes active when you're not focused on anything in particular. For a long time, researchers thought this network didn't do much. They assumed it was just the brain idling. They were wrong. When the default mode network is active, your brain does some of its most important work. It processes emotions. It connects new experiences to old memories. It simulates future scenarios. It builds a sense of who you are over time. In other words, it's where a lot of self-understanding happens. Your ancestors spent hours every day in this state. Not because they chose to, but because their environment gave them no other option. And that regular time in the default mode network helped shape the kind of minds humans developed. We removed almost all of it. But here's what researchers are only beginning to understand. What actually happens to a brain that almost never gets to enter this state anymore? Studies on mind wandering show that people who allow their thoughts to drift without direction often score higher on measures of creativity and problem-solving later. Not because they were trying to be creative, but because the brain, when left alone, continues working on problems in the background. It makes connections you wouldn't make while scrolling or watching something. When you never give your mind that space, those connections don't get made. There's also something deeper happening. Boredom, in its original form, forced people to sit with themselves. It created opportunities for self-reflection that don't exist when every quiet moment is immediately filled. Your ancestors had time to think about their lives, their relationships, their place in the group, and what they wanted, not in a structured, goal-oriented way, just in the slow, meandering way thoughts move when nothing else is demanding attention. We've largely lost that. Instead, we've trained ourselves to treat any feeling of mental emptiness as a problem that needs an immediate solution. The moment boredom appears, we reach for something to kill it, and over time, this changes the way the brain responds to quiet. What used to feel neutral or even restful now feels uncomfortable or even anxious. This isn't just about creativity or self-reflection. It may also be connected to how we process difficult emotions. When you sit with nothing to distract you, difficult feelings have nowhere to go but through you. Sadness, regret, worry, loneliness. Your ancestors felt these things too. But they felt them in a different environment. One where there was often no escape from their own minds for hours at a time. That doesn't mean they were happier. But it does mean they had a different relationship with their inner lives. They couldn't outrun their thoughts as easily as we can. We can. And we do. Constantly. The result is a generation of people who are highly stimulated but strangely disconnected from themselves. We know more about the world than any humans who came before us. We have access to more information, more entertainment, more connection than any previous generation could have imagined. And yet many people report feeling more lost, more anxious, and more unsure of who they are than ever before. Part of that may be because we removed one of the main ways humans used to develop a stable sense of self. Your ancestors didn't have to work at knowing themselves. Their environment gave them the time and space to do it naturally. We have to work at it. We have to deliberately create the conditions our brains evolved to expect. And most of us don't. We've built a world where boredom is almost extinct. And we're only beginning to understand what that extinction has cost us. The ability to sit with your own mind without needing to be entertained. The slow processing of experience that happens in the background. The quiet self-knowledge that comes from having nowhere else to look but inward. These weren't luxuries. They were features of the human operating system. We deleted them without keeping a copy. And now we're living with the consequences. A species that has more stimulation than it can process, and less understanding of itself than it needs.